It's that time of year again where we are busily preparing for the holiday season. Do you find that anxiety and depression symptoms tend to be a little bit more heightened this time of year for you? A lot of us experience anniversaries and other kinds of stressors that will make us feel anxious and or depressed. And I want to offer you a natural, non-invasive solution to help you manage these emotional symptoms that are all too common this time of year. Join me this week as I take a look at how pelvic steaming can help anxiety and depression.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an Eastern medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your menstrual health, offering period solutions for a symptom free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. As we are coming into the holiday season, I thought that it would be really good to talk about tools to help cope with the feelings that come up in this season. So, while we want everything to be magical and light and sunshine and roses, that isn't always the lived experience for people during the holiday season. And for many, anxiety and depression are something that people deal with year long, but oftentimes get really heightened during the holiday season, depending on their symptoms going into the season, situational things, anniversaries. There's all kinds of things that come up during this season. And I want to hold space and honor. So, as much as we want it to be peace, love, and light, for some of us, that's not the lived experience. Are you ready to rewrite the story your body's been carrying? Rebel Remembered is a transformational journey for every woman who's felt disconnected, silenced, or weighed down by period pain, fertility challenges, or the shifting tides of perimenopause and menopause. Led by the reproductive rebel, Adrienne Irizarry, this program weaves together goddess archetypes, body literacy, and the ancient healing art of sound. Here, you'll find freedom in your body, reclaim joy, and release the intergenerational trauma that no longer serves you. Sister, it is time to remember your strength. Join Rebel Remembered and awaken the rebel within. Information about joining this transformational program is in the show notes. And now, back to the show. So, I wanted to offer this episode so that you know that you have some tools that can help you feel more aligned and less symptomatic during the holiday season. And as the light is getting shorter for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. So, I've been a pelvic steaming practitioner for many, many years now. And I talk about it, but I don't think I've talked about all of the gifts that it gives us nearly enough on this program. So, I want to do a little bit better job with that because when Moon Essence was founded, while my initial training was in Chinese nutritional therapy and herbalism, I actually did a lot more, and the focus of my practice was pelvic steaming for quite a few years right there at the beginning before I started kind of expanding what it is that the practice offers for services. So I'm going to go back to my roots, and I want you guys to know all of the amazing things that pelvic steaming can do for you. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. So this is going to be one of those episodes. So, pelvic steaming, if you haven't listened to some of the earlier episodes in season 1 and season 2, where I've talked about what that is, it is a practice that's been used internationally for thousands of years to help with a whole host of gynecology issues. But it's actually bigger than that. Yes, does it help with reproductive health? 1,000%. But the reason that I want to bring it into this particular episode is the gifts that it gives us in terms of our emotional and energetic body. Pelvic steaming is also known as vaginal steaming, perineal steaming, yoni steaming, V steam. Those are probably the most common references to it. I choose to use pelvic steaming because I work with all bodies. It doesn't matter what you have for biological parts and how you identify yourself. This is a practice that is literally for every body. So I use pelvic steaming as the phrase that you're going to hear all throughout my references to it because I feel like it serves the practice better. But in certain communities, you're going to hear it used as yoni steaming probably the most. So the phrases can be used interchangeably. You can use whatever feels aligned to you in terms of your beliefs, practices, performances of gender, whatever you would like. But for the rest of this, I will be referring to it as pelvic steaming. So, pelvic steaming is really simple, yet it does a huge number of things for your body. It is the simple act of sitting on a stool that has a hole in it. You can kneel, but I can tell you that from firsthand experience and talking to clients, they tend not to be as compliant with doing it as regularly as they need to if they're not sitting, but typically it's done with a stool that has a hole in the top of it, and there is a steaming herbal solution underneath the stool that is catered to the needs of a particular body. And you can sit anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So there's a lot of DIY information out there. I understand wanting to make it more cost effective for people, and I try to make it as cost effective as possible. But there's so much that you can do with this practice that I feel like it's nuanced enough that it really needs a practitioner. You can find V steam salons and stuff like that in different parts of the country. But I would encourage you to ask about their background because there are people with different levels of knowledge that are out there, and you wanna make sure that you're really well cared for. I set people up typically to steam at home because let's face it, the world is busy, and it's nice being able to bring that kind of ritual into your own home. Quite frankly, I sit and watch TV with my family when I do a lot of my steaming, not all of it, but a lot of it, because I figure my butt is already parked on the couch. So why don't I just sit and be productive? Because I have to sit for a longer session. So I have a skirt that I wear so that it looks like I'm just sitting on any regular old stool and it's not weird for my kids. And I sit and I watch a half-hour show while I do it. The whole idea, though, is that you're providing heat and circulation support and herbal properties to an area that is drastically underserved. So, if you think about how your body works, you pretty much can survive with everything from the hip up, right? So, like, often when we have circulation challenges, we have cold feet, cool lower legs, frozen toes. Who else? Like I put a meme up on my Instagram the other day about it being cold feet season. And it was this woman turned sideways in bed and she had her cold feet stuck on her husband, whose eyes were like huge and looking like they were going to bug out of his head. How many of us, right? Show of hands. Does this resonate with you? So, having cold feet is really common and not just because it's winter. And it is an indication that chi isn't flowing properly in your body. The lower part of your body or the lower jowl, which is like from your belly button down, is kind of like a second class citizen in the rest of the body. because the body will prioritize pulling energy up from the lower part of the body to aid the digestive process. Because if you don't eat and you don't have fuel, you die. And then it will like rise into the upper jaw, right? So if any other parts of your body are compromised in terms of energy and resources, the body goes, oh, I can just steal it from over here in order to help over there, right? Well, you can only do that so long before you start creating challenges. And a lot of times you start seeing that in terms of compromised circulation in your lower extremities. And then it like radiates upwards, and we have crampy periods and dark purple menses, and the story goes on. So, the beautiful part about steaming is it helps to improve your circulation. Now, how does that pertain? This episode is about steaming for anxiety and depression. How does that help? In today's health food market, it's hard to distinguish truly nutritious products from those that only claim to be. Despite their healthy labels, many ingredients are not organic. They're overly processed and contain synthetic nutrients, seed oils, sugars, sugar alcohols, or other potentially harmful additives. Paleo Valley stands out by committing to genuine, whole food ingredients that support your health as nature intended. I recommend Paleo Valley products to my clients because their prioritization of quality over cost and ensuring that their products are organic and free from unnecessary additives makes me feel good about suggesting that my clients use them. As somebody who uses food as medicine, quality is absolutely paramount in order to get the results that we're looking for. And I love using and suggesting that my clients use Paleo Valley products because their approach is not just about offering more nourishing products, it's about integrity, transparency, and commitment to overall well being. All of those themes jive with me. So if you are looking for beef liver, which is the thing I recommend the most often to my female clients, look no further than Paleo Valley. Link is in the show notes. And now back to the show. This episode is about steaming for anxiety and depression. How does that help? Well, there are a couple of acupuncture points in your perineum that do massive amounts of work for the entire body. They're drastically underserved. I mean, let's face it, you don't generally go to the acupuncturist to get needled between your legs. I know I don't. However, these points do huge work for the whole body. So when you're sitting and you're doing pelvic steaming, you are providing gentle, non invasive stimulation to these acupuncture points. And one of these acupuncture points helps, actually, both of them have some level of support for the emotional body or the Shen. One of these acupuncture points helps with the emotional body in a very specific way, the way that Chinese medicine looks at it. And the increase in circulation not only helps with depression. So, without getting too complicated, depression often has a compromised circulatory aspect, meaning that circulation isn't moving really effectively for whatever reason. And that, is something for a one on one consult. But for some reason, something isn't flowing appropriately or doesn't quite have enough energy to flow appropriately, or both. And by providing pelvic steaming, you are helping to increase that movement, which helps to relieve symptoms of depression or helps make them more manageable. Anxiety is the same thing, although more often than not, anxiety has to do with there not being enough resources. And you're providing circulation support herbal support, all of these things through pelvic steaming, which helps with the anxiety side of the equation. So, pelvic steaming really is a powerhouse for the emotional body, for overall support for anxiety and depression symptoms. The reason why I said I don't want to make it too complicated is like the way that the herbal world looks at anxiety and depression, there are like several different patterns that fall into each. And so that's where I was saying, like, one-on-one consultation, if this is something you're struggling with, is probably a much better way to go because you want to make sure that the herbs that you're steaming with, the duration you're steaming, all of those kinds of things are tailored specifically to what it is that your body needs because it's not a one size fits all. It's really not. I know that there are some practitioners that kind of put it out there that way, but it's really not. The herbs are customized, your duration is customized, the heat is customized based on what it is that your body needs. So, pelvic steaming, not only because it provides circulation support and warmth and movement in terms of your entire circulatory system, but it also is providing some building blocks and tools that maybe your body doesn't have enough nourishment in that will then have that trickle down effect where, okay, now my body has more resources. I feel more supported, and then the symptoms start to fall away. Like I said, both of these acupuncture points in your pelvis, in your perineum specifically, deal with the emotional body or the shen. It helps to calm the shen so that you're not feeling restless, anxious, those kinds of things. So I understood this at an intellectual level for many years, but it wasn't until we were all locked down in COVID that I had an opportunity to see just how powerful steaming for the spirit really is. I had so many calls with women during that time frame that were like, "Thank God I started steaming with you because if I hadn't, I would have needed medication or something because being locked down is making me crazy." End quote. Like, that's literally what they were saying to me. I had a few people who were already, like, actively managing anxiety that the early stages of COVID and the pandemic really heightened their experience with these emotional symptoms. And they were finding that they would have to steam every day and then they would have to do some sort of movement practice in order to keep their circulation moving. But when they did that, they weren't reliant upon their medication. They were able to cope with how they were feeling, and they were so grateful that they had this practice. There are a lot of people who struggle with shorter light days, and they get really down in the lack of light time. Those people really benefit from pelvic steaming as well because you're, again, helping to uplift the body. Steaming lifts, tightens, and tones. It lifts. Like, steam helps to move warmth in your system. It moves your circulation. That lifting, energetic action literally lifts the spirits. I have teenagers. If you've been following this show for a while, you know I have teenagers. And when I go to camp, so I spend a few months living in a camper at a campground during the summertime. I find that it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in terms of things that I do for my health, both mentally and physically, being outside and all the sunshine and whatnot. But the people that are in the campers that are right near ours tell me that I have a look. And they can tell when I've steamed because if I've steamed in the camper and then I go and sit by a fire or whatever with other people that are, because we have like a corner where we all kind of hang out and they know because it's kind of like that when Harry met Sally, like I'll have what she's having kind of experience. because they just, like, take a look at me and they're like, "You steamed today, like, you look super relaxed." Like, there's always comments about the fact that, like, my face looks different and things like that, and I just think it's so funny because I'm so used to doing it at this point that I don't think anything of it, so to have that observation come in from the outside with people who really don't know a ton about what I do for work, but, like, they just look at me and know that I've done that quote unquote "weird steaming thing" that I do because my face looks so different. It is such a gentle, non-invasive, subtle practice. It gently supports your system in so many ways, and you can physically see, like, the changes in my face when you are in alignment and you are balanced. So many health problems come from stress, anxiety, and depression. Stress is a component in making them more exaggerated. And steaming provides this gentle, calming, supportive action that even if you've had a really shitty day and everything that you touch is blowing to pieces, when you sit and you steam, you can feel the weight of the world kind of wash away from you. And you feel like you have more flexibility in your nervous system to be able to take on those challenges after you've had a steam session. Sometimes people will choose to steam before they go to bed because, like in perimenopause, for example, I work with quite a few clients who experience heightened anxiety either before they go to bed and it makes it hard to fall asleep, or they wake up during the liver window between 1 to 3 a.m. Yes, I know that there's a bunch of you that are nodding and going, "Yes, 1 to 3 a.m. seems to be my nemesis." That happens, and then your mind starts to run and you try to solve all the world's problems, and then you finally get to go back to sleep at the end of that window, and you wake up feeling hungover the next morning. Did that land with anybody? I know it used to for me. That heightened level of anxiety can be subdued and addressed by steaming before going to bed, whether it's the falling asleep or it's the staying asleep. That's the challenge. I cannot advocate enough for using pelvic steaming as part of your self care if you are somebody who struggles with anxiety and or depression. It's not going to compete with any medication you might be on. It may even make it so that you don't need to take as much of it. That's something to discuss with your practitioner. You'll find that using steaming on a regular basis helps to make, like I said, your nervous system more flexible so that it can deal with the stresses of the world. And it can be used as a tool to cope with the stresses of the world as well. So, as we're going into this low light time of year, as we're going into the time of year where many of us struggle with the stress of the holidays, the keeping up appearances, the seeing of family members that we really don't want to see, whatever it is that's stressing you out, use steaming as a tool. So, if you go onto my website, moonessence.life, there is information about pelvic steaming on there. There are steaming supplies in my store. I would highly, highly, highly recommend if you're thinking about getting started doing this, book an appointment with either myself or Amber on the website and do a one on one consultation so that you know that you're getting the right herbs, the right heat, and the right duration for what it is that your body needs. But we would love to be able to support you and help make sure that you have the right tools to be able to use fantastic modality, this fantastic modality in order to help calm the spirit, improve your sleep, relax your body so that the stress of the holidays don't feel quite so big.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at MoonEssenceMe on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.